Okay, June 21st, 2023 at 6:03 PM. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next order of business is discuss the Board of Aldermen agenda. So I know there's questions about some of the things on there. Any alderman like to bring up some of your questions that you're going to bring up during the regular meeting of any of the ordinances?
My question's really just, one, which got a little bit of an explanation of, but probably for the benefit of everyone. The understanding of where in Bill 2332 about the regulating animals within the city, or how that came about.
Do you want to handle it, John, or, yeah, and basically it comes from St. Charles County. They're the ones that rewrite it every year. We contract with them to regulate our animal control. And so we're pretty much bound to their regulations. I think there will be a follow-up ordinance for the actual contract. Is that correct?
I believe that's what, yeah, brings. Just a renewal.
Renewal of the contract, right?
When that comes up, it'd be really cool if we could get any kind of metrics on number of calls. Pertinent information about performance over the past year. Has to be evaluated. Pretty cool. They should be able to. Easily able to.
That's the same contract that they like remove roadkill under. That different. I think that might be the road maintenance agreement.
Apologies. I didn't use a very good careful with the. One thing I wanted to find others, where are we on the town square area?
Right now, an application went out. We're taking applications from applicants. I think the last count there was 7 people that have applied.
Okay.
It was my understanding that some of the aldermen in your wards were going to bring forward people to sit on it. I haven't seen any of that yet.
Well, I sent out an email asking how we were supposed to submit those, where those should go. So I've got some of them I'm sitting on, just waiting on. So how would you like us to submit those?
As am I.
Did you not send out that applicant? That
James
application?
sent everything out.
Yeah.
I didn't send anything out. It came from James.
Yeah, there was an application sent
Was it?
out by James. Yes, to
I'll
the
look
board.
that up then.
Yeah.
I didn't see.
I've not seen it. Might have overlooked it.
Or, you know what, actually, I don't think it went to the board. I think it was the email he sent out with the packet on it from a couple meetings ago. I think was what it was. I'm not sure that it did go to the board.
So the packet did not go to the board a couple meetings ago?
No. I send out the packet to the board.
Uh-huh.
He sends out a packet to the email distribution list from the residents. I believe he sent it to them, but not the board.
Okay, we'll get the application sent to you.
Thank you.
Because I think that comes back into some of the things we have on the agenda tonight, and that that committee is supposed to be looking at an area that we also have 2 PUDs from that area on the agenda tonight. That's a cart horse situation.
I don't think those areas were included in that stretch of property.
So
They don't go
the,
beyond town square. Those
So-
areas,
well, one of them is in town square, and it's called Town Square Apartments. But when I seem to remember us talking about the town square triangle all the way down to technology. I looked up the resolution, it said the town square area, so it was not as descriptive as maybe it should have been, but I thought what we were talking about was town square, post, technology, the triangle down there, everything around Keystone Heights. Because the technology corridor is a big piece of that we've got to figure out what we want there. So if it doesn't go down there, I don't know how effective the mission would be.
That's kind of,
That's asking, that's a big ask, Mike, to include all of that. Okay, the
What-
ask was for Town Square Boulevard from Post, basically to towns, down to kind of Mers Lane was my understanding. It wasn't that whole region of technology down the end of Post and
Then-
behind.
I misunderstood, and that was what I had assumed we talked about.
From what was discussed at planning and zoning, it was the city's 10 acres. Town Square Avenue from Post to Technology. And then from Town Square to the city limits to the east.
Which would include everything along Highway 40.
I mean, those are the areas of the city that we really need to focus on development, and putting a vision out. So if it doesn't include that, I think it's a big opportunity.
I tend to agree, and from my lens, given the volume of traffic and people that drive by it every day, I would say it is the face of our city, almost, if I were to put a designation to that strip. So that strip holds, I believe, a high degree of importance to any future planning that we do for our city. And that's not gonna change.
Yeah.
64 is not gonna move anytime soon, and the volume of traffic's not gonna get any lower. I think it's a very important consideration in what we do in the future.
So given that, there's differences of expectations, should we work on another resolution to further clarify that and give direction to the committee?
Definitely. But at the same time, so what are you saying? You're wanting to possibly postpone this?
I think that
I mean-
would be appropriate and give the committee, we got to get that committee going ASAP, get them working, and then give them the request to look at that first. Because these are irons in the fire. But I think that it's, similar to situations in the past where we look at giving some kind of direction on zoning and then immediately within a month, go back and overturn that and do something in opposition to it. I think that if we're serious about this committee, we need to get a chance to do it. It takes them.
But at the same time, all of this has come together before we even discussed, they've come with these plans way before we've ever discussed a meeting. This was part of the reason why we kind of decided to have a meeting. So we're gonna put them on the back burner.
Well,
For how many months? 6 months to,
I would hope that they'd be able to get something together for them faster than that, but we're in a rock and a hard place with the timing now. Where we are undercutting the commission that we just formed.
the commission is not even formed yet. I mean.
It's not staffed, but it's
it's not-
formed by resolution. But yeah, I mean, we could, it's semantics at that point, but there is a resolution on the table for a committee has been authorized. It is expected.
right. So I apologize for being late. I back from the conference and delayed. What is your point in the whole discussion here?
That if we charge a committee with developing a vision and zoning, and zoning is one part of it, but a comprehensive view of what that area should look like and to consult the board or to advise the board.
Right.
And then we go in and we say, we want you to advise us, but we're just gonna do this anyways. And that's the
Well, let's stop right there then. It's a vision committee. Okay, it has no power or authority
100%.
whatsoever to do anything.
Correct.
So basically, the board and this board could still proceed
Good.
with taking their information under advisement.
Yes.
So without them having any authority, what is it the reason to postpone?
Because if we are looking at it just from what their authority is, what is the point of having them? We're taking their advisement, their work, their vision, and trying to create a cohesive plan for that area so that we can make better decisions. If we make those decisions now before that, then why have a committee?
Because I believe we need to move forward as a city. We should not stop our progress and growth as a city. We basically, I believe this board knows what we're looking in also. And guidance on what's gonna go. I believe this vision committee is more of the people and residents and input from businesses also to help us, guide us down the way, but to stop the progress of the city, I don't see that we should do that. I think we ought to just move forward as we are.
But I'll say that since I joined the board, I've heard a lot of, we're on a cliff, we gotta do it now, we gotta do it now, we gotta do it now. And every time that we start talking about putting together a cohesive vision and really making that plan, I mean, I put a budget item in for a number of years ago for something like this. We probably should have done it then. But each time it doesn't get executed on, we're finally to a place where we have something that we can execute on and at least start that process. I don't know that this is really stopping progress. It is taking a very short pause. And if we're serious about it, and this isn't just a symbolic thing, this isn't just something to placate our residents, which I think would be a bad move. And what everyone that I've talked to expects it to be. We should take that input and then we'll do this again, at least not in this. We're getting down to the point where we don't have much developable land left. So getting this right is really important. Now, I don't necessarily think that this is a bad use of the land, but if we're going to create a commission and or a committee, and we're going to put any faith in them to provide us good counsel, then we need to take that seriously. And I appreciate your comments, but I respectfully disagree.
This was pushed through planning and zoning. It did pass, recommended to us. But it was pushed through, and I'll take part of the responsibility for pushing it through. But I agree, we're going to set up a commission, it needs to be set up. Then this is in that area that we've talked about. And so we're gonna delay this to some extent. Some of the building of this is not going to happen right away anyway, from what I heard on last Wednesday night. I'm not sure that delaying it is going to be that critical. But we've had a project where we didn't listen to planning and zoning, and we thought we knew best, but I think we need to listen to the commission, and then we need to listen to planning and zoning, and then make our decisions from there.
I ask how you feel.
It's another thing that I just going to talk, when I talked to Don Young tonight. This was dropped on my porch and I see two people from planning and zoning here. We got this on a Thursday and we're expected to go through it and be finished with it by the next Wednesday. Some of us old guys don't have anything else to do. Oh, I'm sorry. Some of us have more time than others, but we have people that work. And that's a big packet to go through.
But
So
that being said, and I take that into consideration, why did the board go ahead and approve it and get it here? If that's
again, part of it was me pushing it. And
I mean, I would have. I don't see it was pushed through because the board had the opportunity to postpone the vote on it. So I can't take that as.
postponing it was never really an option given. They have the option, of course. but it wasn't, postponing is not an option that's usually given to planning and zoning. So with having looked at it, it passed.
So I'd like to know what it is that the board is expecting from this vision committee. Is it zoning changes? Is it an actual kind of, you recall, there was a comprehensive plan that was called Uptown. That was, I don't know how many people have actually looked at it, studied it, went over it. But that was a real vision. Okay.
Mhm.
They had detailed drawings of every little corner of the city in multiple options of it. Okay.
Yep.
It was a true vision, but it was unrealistic.
It was
It was-
also not formed by committee. It was bought from a company who put together stuff.
Okay,
on a-
whether it's formed by a committee or bought,
Well, hold on. It was put together by a company that builds seaside residents in Florida. It
right,
was entirely inappropriate area.
right.
So a committee, I think, is better positioned to do something that is equally Garden Prairie rather than calling in somebody from the outside.
So what I'm saying though, I'm just using that as an
Mhm.
example. So this committee, are we expecting a detailed vision from this committee, something like that, that shows, actual, plans for what could be done on different pieces of property that we have? Is that what we want? And who's going to pay for that, those renditions?
So I'll speak for myself and I'll invite anyone else to get there too. I did open this up whenever we passed that resolution and said, hey, everybody be prepared. There's probably going to be some costs associated and let's buy into it, not going crazy. But two, the Uptown zoning plan was restrictive and stifled development to the point where no one wanted to come to Garden Prairie because they couldn't meet that high bar. So no, I don't think it should be that prescriptive. We shouldn't have elevations of what your building has to look like, stuff like that. We're talking about land use, what types of businesses and attractions we should be taking out, that kind of stuff. An analysis of land use, attractions, and what the city desires and needs for that area. Elevations, expensive markups on a GIS. I personally don't care about that. I'm looking for something from that commission that says, this is Garden Prairie, this is the Town Square Triangle, this is who we want to be.
And again, the feasibility of it has to be considered.
I mean, I think if you're asking a vision. So I always saw it more along Town Square and around the Mers Farm area, particularly where the boat storage is. I didn't see it necessarily extending down this far, but at the same time, when you're looking at a vision committee, I think it's more about philosophically, it's about specific designs, right? So it's like, don't tell me you want this place or this type of place. It's like, oh, we want, sources of, entertainment, and that could look like a multitude of different things. More importantly, I think it's a thing of saying, well, these are that area. It's like, oh, well, if we think we should have some sort of attraction or entertainment on the city's current 10 acres, if that's what the vision comes up with, more of a thing of like, hey, and including but not limited to this type of list we think would be really represent the city well. And the extent there are some, these are the types of things that we don't really see as representatives. Obviously, it will be on the board to decide whether we agree or disagree with something. But I see more of that and not the, oh, make it look like Seaside and here's what we want the buildings to look like. Like, yeah, that's a ton of work, a ton of money, and it stifles creativity from the development community.
But
More to go
whether
and
it
talk
be,
about, here's what we.
whether it be something like Uptown, what we had, or a list of things that this committee thinks our city should look like. The question is, who's willing to do it? Is there anybody out there willing to do it? Invest.
Got at least 7 applicants so far.
And,
Mhm.
and as soon, you'll have more as soon as we
We have,
figure out how to submit them in.
we have applicants. No, to build it,
To,
build what they're saying.
well, we've got developers that we can bring in, entice to come in. And I think, if I can correct me if I'm wrong, so I know we have some in the audience. I think you find the right developers better by having a clear vision and support. A vision for support for your city, than if you say, we have dirt, come propose something and we'll throw it at a wall and see if we tell you yes or no. I think that it's a lot better to tell them we're welcoming this, this, and this, so that they get excitement when they come in and not a fight. And doing that early so that they don't come in, spend a bunch of money coming up with a concept and a plan only to find out that it's not what people like and they lose their money. Cause I don't want to become that kind of city. We, like Scott from the EDC said, you need to get those things out of the way early and make sure that people know who you are, what you're willing to do at the beginning, so that people won't spend their rules.
If we're hinging it on developers who you say can and will come and build the city, are you proposing that we let them decide the vision and the
No.
future of our city?
Not at all.
Because that seems like that's,
Not at all. I spend a lot of time in all different areas, including St. Charles County, with developers, okay? And I know what their business plan is and what works, okay?
but
So-
should that be the determining factor of what drives what our future of our city becomes?
It's the determining factor of almost every city, the survival of every city, of getting
What are the
someone,
developers?
getting someone that is willing to develop something no different than our uptown plan. As many developers came and looked at it and says, we can't make any money at doing that. Sorry. So, I mean, so anyway, I mean, we'll move forward with it, definitely. I have no problem with it, but I'm just concerned about what the actual mission is. It has to be concise, clear, and it has to be something feasible that people out there that are willing to invest money can get a return on their investment.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would venture to
So-
say that there could be a common ground in there, but we'd have to start with giving the people the choice to make contributions to what the city looks like and then find a meet in the middle mark. And
I
find out
think
what that
that's
feasibility point is. And I think that's what the vision committee, to my understanding, was supposed to be. I mean, that's, you're sort of talking about the mechanics of it on the back end. But the idea of the visioning committee was, let's bring folks from each ward in here to give thoughts and insight. Let's bring first responders in to assess feasibility from a first responder perspective. Let's bring, and let's bring those folks in and discuss that. And then the mechanics of it and who's gonna do it, that would be the meat and middle point, I suppose. That's sort of the way I understood it.
And I thought, and I always thought that was the importance of avoiding the situation, avoiding another up down, to me, is also having members, whether they're residents of Darden Prairie or otherwise. Having at least some members that are familiar with real estate development. Hopefully they are either a developer or commercial real estate agent that understands the business side of real estate, because yeah, it does no good if somebody goes, the vision committee comes up with a vision that nobody will ever build because they want golden facades that we're never gonna have because you can never charge the rent here.
Right. And I think there was supposed to be a developer on the committee, right?
Yeah. I think that's the importance of having a well-rounded committee to do it, so that, and somebody who, if they are in that situation, they are the lone voice, willing to speak up about it too.
And being someone that's been involved in startups to established businesses for a very long time, spending many years studying it, you're going to be profitable if you bring to fun. And so when our residents and developers, everyone get together in the same and put together a vision and say, here's what this city is, here's what we need, here are our, what excites us, those kinds of things. Now, you have to choose the right people. I see your turn on that. You have to choose the right people who aren't going to say, you know what I really like is ice cream. We should have 75 dairy queens down here. No, you get level-headed people who recognize need, wants, desires, and they will put together a plan that the residents of Darden are very excited about. have profitability.
On that note, Mayor Gotway, to your point, I think having some structure around the goal and the vision, you know, what's the outcome? That's something that probably should be defined when we structure the committee, instead of just saying, let's go have a big discussion for 6 months and then. But I think you make a great point with that let's throw some structure in there. We have all the stakeholders outlined that we need, but putting structure around it is probably something we should consider.
But to that end, it'd be really nice if we could speed up the getting those and things like that, having conversations. And not only appoint people at the next meeting, but also have a resolution that clarifies that all the aldermen are satisfied with it.
So then how about aldermen? Like, I've got zero feedback from aldermen since we talked about this, as far as any kind of structure of the committee or anything. So, I mean, do we, James and I and whoever, just guess at what you guys are trying to decide to see? I mean,
No, I thought we had an understanding of great dialogue here, revealing that we didn't. I will absolutely submit my thoughts on it.
okay,
I think it's important enough, this and the rules of order, that if we wanted to have a special workshop or something like that, I'd be happy to come into that. Folks on the board.
We already showed some text earlier about talking just about, oh, we need to get this vision committee going and we wanted to talk about a few people.
So
So
I'll-
I just didn't know the applications were already going on.
I'll have the application out to you today or
Perfect.
yesterday. Yeah.
We agree it needs to be forward,
I just figured
resolved. It's,
you all had it. I mean,
We can.
that's fair.
has anybody been talking to anybody about it?
Yeah.
Good.
I've had a lot of people come talk to me about it.
Okay.
Now on this application. We ask for residents of the different wards, is it clear on the application? Ward you're in, so.
We can, yeah.
I don't know. I
Well, you
haven't
can,
seen the application, so.
can by address. I mean, it's easy to look up.
At that point, I think that something that I've come across, because I have talked to some folks about this in the first responder community specifically, because I feel that's a, important group to include, and it was listed on the list of folks that should be included. A lot of the first responders that have decades even of experience within Darden Prairie don't physically live in Darden Prairie.
Got one in Dardenberry though. It's Ward 2.
What's that?
So I think we got a captain in Ward 2.
Yeah, I remember that.
Fire, yeah.
Nice.
I think he's a captain.
But there are,
Not here.
but whether somebody would be willing or interested in being on it, live in the community. So I think that this is something to consider as far as from a special element of the first responder community who, I know I've talked to a couple people who don't live here. They live maybe in an adjoining city, but work at the firehouse here.
I think that's one thing as we're looking at, especially, obviously you want to have residents of the wards, but as you're looking at some of these areas of expertise, I think you want somebody that has an interest in the city, whether or not they physically live in the city, that's preferable, but at least have an interest in the city. So somebody who's works in a fire district that's operating in Darden Prairie is better than just some random first responder that doesn't live or work in it.
Kevin Ostermeyer from police force lives in Bainbridge.
I think it'd be a good discussion to have.
What else?
Ordinance.
No, we're on discussing the workshop or the regular meeting agenda.
I guess the animal regulations, I'm a little bit, had a hard time understanding. Is there, maybe we could have a discussion about that and just what are the implications of it, all these changes? Got it.
We didn't come up with these changes. Wasn't something that we commissioned our attorneys to write. It came from St. Charles County.
Right.
And their animal control, they change their regulations every year.
Okay.
And this is what we end up with. Now, if you want something different, it's gonna be a hard sell to them to contract with us to say, okay, we'll take this, but we don't want this, and we can add this, but take this out. So now they got a whole different set of regulations that they have to enforce just for Dark Prairie.
Yeah, new guy card on this. So
Yeah.
certainly this is
Yeah.
why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm
So
just-
we're voting on it, but are we voting to just sort of just kind of accepting that as the contracted body that is gonna force this, unless we see something really egregious that we don't agree with, then we would bring it up and then vote and then we recommend a change. And then we go back to them.
Yes, they have to agree to that.
Okay.
Yes, whether they want to enforce it or not, or they'll say, hey, go get your own dog catcher, you know?
Oh.
Huh? Yeah, it's pretty much take it or leave it.
Or just for a general understanding, because, for me, this is the first thing that I'm
Mhm.
looking at,
Yeah.
In a handful of times I've been in Alder. This is the first thing that I'm looking at that didn't originate from us. So it's more of like the mechanics of what happens if we do see something that we're not pleased with, or we would like to maybe request or recommend a change. So more from just a mechanics issue, I guess.
Yeah, this is one of the very rare circumstances in terms of ordinance. My recollection, as is typical when we hire the county to do some enforcement activities, contract will require us to adopt their ordinance, and this is one of those.
And you're
So I
saying
didn't
it's
see it.
change each year? Is that what,
Yeah.
is it that dynamic of changes? Because it looks like there's a lot of changes.
It's not, it's not in,
It's not.
no, it's periodically, but not, it's been a number of years.
Somebody made somebody mad in St. Charles County over parents. And they changed the ordinance. And
I agree with you. There were quite a few changes.
Yeah.
It took me a while to read through all these and then go back and go, why are they changing? Then read, you can see they're being a lot more generic
Yes, it's.
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
word than specific, which encompasses all animals instead of just dogs and cats and stuff like that.
Very,
Makes sense.
very subjective language, I noticed, it did change to, more generic. How do you define wholesome food that you're feeding? Instead, it says healthcare is necessary, which makes more sense. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So I guess our only other course of action, if this is required by the contract, then the question is, are we considering other contracts? Or I think it is wise to contract information with others, just like we did with O'Fallon. Is that in the plan this year to ask O'Fallon what they would charge us for animal control versus St. Charles County?
One, they have to be willing to do it.
Well,
I mean,
they're pretty close by, so.
You know, I say no.
And
Doesn't hurt to-
just to be clear, even, and I don't know the answer to this with regard to O'Fallon, I know other cities that have like their own officers who do code enforcement, because they use St. Charles County's kennel, they're required to comply with their regulations.
Well, Weston's for sale. No,
When you
I don't know.
interested in buying it, you could be the
oh, no,
control too. Oh,
you're good with animals, right? I think John.
Wasn't a dog catcher an old elected position once upon a time?
you can make dog cut on my house.
No, because my wife would want them. No.
You can have a whole kennel for all of
No.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
You don't want
appreciate
it
that
wholesome
one too. It might be worth asking Fallon if they're interested in tossing their hat in the ring like
Okay,
we did with the police.
Again,
We actually.
I don't believe O'Fallon is gonna be willing to enforce our specific set of rules.
No, I mean, they want to enforce their rules.
Right.
Sure.
They're gonna
but-
enforce
I
their rules.
don't know how their rules differ, so that would just be something
Right now, they're,
to get the data.
they did not put it on this agenda. I think it will be on the file.
And then,
Next meeting.
We're at that precipice now where if we were to consider an alternative. Good question.
hey,
Yep.
But
Well, this isn't the contract, this would be.
So I just talked to Kim down here. The contract is due and it'll be on our next
Next
agenda.
agenda,
So
right.
if we're gonna be doing something,
We don't really have time.
No,
No,
so I mean,
I didn't realize
you're
that.
not gonna compare apples and apples when something's due right away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for next year, maybe, I would surely be more than open next year. Maybe let's see if we can see what O'Fallon
Yeah,
or even Wentzville or
Yeah.
somebody wants, or whatever.
100%. And I think this highlights, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I just wanted to check on when this thing was due, so
Well,
it's due.
Yeah.
that's why we put you next to campus. Yeah, I think this highlights again, something that I heard talked about quite a bit is getting information, deadlines, things like that. At the moment that it's too late to do anything, get a lot better on that so that we can be more deliberative.
Well, I think this came from county, just,
Right.
you know.
We knew the expiration of the contract, for example.
Yeah.
It might be good to have a calendar for our expiring contracts.
To that point, is there a way we can tonight state that we would like to put it on an agenda item for 10 months down the road to give us a couple months advance? Can we put that? Some
A
sort of,
workshop.
like approve with the.
A workshop agenda.
Yeah, with a workshop agenda slated for, 2 months before expiration of this contract, so then we can have time to look at it. So that way we're not forgetting about it the year later it pops up.
Mhm.
That makes sense, where can we put it, we approve it, but there's an action taken by the city to.
So if you're gonna put it out as a discussion item, I would say you wanna put it out as a discussion item probably 3 months before the expiration of a contract.
Sure.
So that we can talk and say, how do we feel about this particular supplier? Do we even want to go out?
Right.
And talk to anybody
Exactly.
else, or are we happy with it? Because if you're happy with it, then you're getting great service and we already know, hey, this is either the only game in town or the best game in town.
I would suggest to put it on January. By the time you go out and listen and
Yeah.
get response and everything else, I would say put on January and bring it up the first of the year.
I agree.
That's 6 months out.
But from the mechanics of it, when we approve this, an action item, there's a way to sort of like formalize that.
I think generally it's just a good policy that, if you have a service contract expiring, you should ask potential other folks if they'd be interested in the cost and what service they provide. Not that we're going to change, but it always helps. keep your
But yeah,
suppliers
there's a
honest, too.
January agenda item, put forth all contract due dates. Bring forth all contract due dates in January. We can sit and look at them all.
No. I mean, I don't need the. It should probably be contracts over an amount.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I know we've discussed the bidding of the concession stand and stuff like that. So if we have the whole list, we can just scratch through the ones that are, not even prevalent to getting bids or doing anything with, but the ones that we do feel interest in, we can highlight and know what dates we got.
Yep.
Got that down.
I'll let James know.
Yes, we'll let James know and you can put that all together.
And please, one thing for the city staff, if we ask for things that are gonna be important for you guys, please talk to us and let us know. We don't want to just throw something in events and sign you up for a bunch of work that we don't realize how much it is. Please be open.
I don't know, that might be.
I think the recent, even just a recent police contract that we did where we went out and we asked some others what it would be, what it would cost, what service levels we would get. I think it just reinforced the decision to keep the county running. So, yeah, that's why I think it's just a good exercise.
After we get to talking about this, I have one more item I want to talk about.
All right, go ahead.
What is going on with the 2333? I looked at, there weren't markups on it. It was just the plain text. I'm guessing council could probably give us a rundown of what this is, the amending various provisions of chapter 125 of the municipal code related to municipal court operations.
The city municipal court was subject to an audit by the Office of State Court Administrators, OSCA. And they had some recommendations just for compliance with various court operating rules and statutes, and this just brings us. The court's been operating in compliance, this just puts on paper what this court is already doing.
Okay.
I was reading those fees and that on there, they're pretty reasonable. Court fees and stuff like that.
Yeah, in terms of court fees, we can only do what
What the
law
state-
allows, and that's what law allows.
That's, I think the state would do something about that, because I mean, that's minimum.
Yeah, that was in result to, well,
It's a product of SB5 and its progeny from about 6 years.
having represented lots of people in municipal court that were defendants. Got themselves into situations because of the way the rules work. I don't necessarily disagree.
Only thing I have to bring to this board is, I know we budgeted in for this sign out front. And it's still not working. Why is? That's one of the biggest complaints I've been hearing about.
Two companies have come out and looked at it and said it can't be fixed. They can't find the parts. They don't have it. They recommended going with a whole new system on there. What they said, what we have is so outdated. And I said, we just bought it. And they said, go to the company that you bought it from. I did. They said, here's YouTube videos to fix it. Yes, so,
Do you mind if
I mean-
I jump in on this conversation?
sure, go ahead. I'll give you the
Because that's
context.
like two years old, 3 years old. How old is
Yeah.
that out there? And it's that far out of date?
Most all the other signs that are out there, if you go look at them, they're entirely different LEDs, everything. This company right down here across the bridge that does the signs, they also do these and work on them. Guy came and looked at it and said, I don't want anything to do.
The manufacturer of that one.
Jen has it all. Jen.
Well, I'm sure the LEDs are probably still good. It's probably the back end of it, but. Who gives?
Okay,
That's-
all right.
Sorry.
We've got one that we're not using in our office for the same reason, and it is outdated and either can't find the parts or it's.
They can't
too
find the
costly to
parts.
replace.
It's a network card that he said that it doesn't exist.
Oh, we'll talk about it. I may have.
Have at it, Mike.
MacGyver.
I'll work with you.
Yep.
Well, Mike, everybody'd be happy if
Yeah.
you could get it fixed, because at the concert the other night, that was one of the biggest questions I got.
You talking about the sign out at the ball?
The
right?
digital one, yeah,
Yeah,
because it tells the people what's playing here, stuff like that, and the residents miss it.
okay.
Okay, so. I've worked in military avionics most of my life. Okay, I looked at it the day I looked at it when we installed it. I said, I give it about a year to 2 years. There's no conformal coating. It's like taking an interior TV and putting it out on your deck and watching TV in the weather through the winter, the changes in temperatures, the humidity, whatever. There's absolutely no conformal coating. There's nothing outdoor rated in that sign. It's like a computer motherboard that they took off the shelf and stuck it in a sign that you would use. It's nice.
So maybe we wouldn't want to actually fix it if that's the case.
Exactly.
You can put that stuff in an email box, but if nothing else, I'll work with you on it.
Who approved that sign? Who approved that sign?
Probably don't need.
Look for volunteer.
I'm sorry, Dan. I wasn't here.
I know.
How old is that? That's as old as the building.
So
No,
Sign?
Those the ball
I
fields.
just put it up
Dan Lang was here just
Oh.
2.5 years ago.
2 years ago. So,
So there should still be a warranty on it, manufacturer or otherwise. But no, I'm with you, and I've been doing this for a number of years, so Enterprise AV is what I've done in Amber for years. And you're absolutely right, this is fight it together.
And maybe you'd get Ameren to donate a new sign to.
I cannot commit Amber to anything, but I can toss in a recommendation.
You figure out how to get that one fixed.
Uh, no one cares to discuss the, inspection ordinance? Mine's made up on it.
No.
The changes, have you read through them?
I understand. Well, it needs clarity then. There are two of them on there, the old business. It sounds like proper form if we want to approve the new one that encompasses everything, including changing the dollar amount for inspection. Approve that and get rid of the old business, right? I remember seeing two, correct? Is that the proper route if we want the change to the cost? Or was there
The
something?
old business was the one that's amended. 23-24 is the amended one with the new, additions that were requested
We're gonna read it for a second time as amended.
as amended.
Well, wait a second. No, 23-27 is the new one, a separate one.
Wait, hang on.
23-23
Do we have it on there?
was what we already read. And the
But
23-23 does not have the change in the charge. 23-27 does. When I looked through it, it looks like they were exactly the same except for that. Is that accurate?
They are exactly the same except for that, because the original bill did not contemplate the change in the charge, it was a separate section that needed to be a new bill.
That's what I thought.
So we've added that language to the new bill. So the first bill, the old business bill, would be postponed indefinitely if you elect to adopt one removing the charge.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sir.
anything else?
So let me get this straight. If we adopt removing the charge first, then we go to the other bill?
Then we just postpone indefinitely the other bill. And it just goes onto a table and dies.
And everything stays intact, but the charge.
But, hold on. So Bill 23-27 includes the language that we had talked about saying essentially no inspections for owner occupied. So that's retained in 23-27, and then that's correct, right?
It's still gonna be inspection for homes and all that.
Let's pull up the language. When I read through it, it looked like 23-27 was Bill 23-23, just for the amendment that the occupancy, the electives, safety, occupancy, safety inspections were $0.
So it's not elective. It's a safety, but it's for non-owner occupied residences.
Okay. But that does not preclude the city from offering safety inspections at that cost if someone calls in and asks, correct?
It doesn't preclude it, but we
Okay.
can talk about whether that should be or should not be done.
Okay, but they can do that. That gives them the freedom to.
So, let me make sure I got this right. So for rental properties,
We'll get
there
it.
is or is not an inspection fee.
The rental properties are non-owner occupied. It will be a mandatory change in occupancy.
With a fee or without? a
There's
fee?
one with a fee, one without a fee. So the old ordinance was with the current fee.
Yeah.
The new ordinance, which is under new business, is without a fee.
For non-owner occupied.
Right.
Triggers that inspection.
Change in occupancy. Change in occupancy.
What triggers that?
How will we informed of a change in occupancy? Is that what you're asking?
Utility changes in the names of utility customers.
Our easiest is, crash.
Crash. Okay.
I'm just gonna throw this out there because I don't know if this was, what was. Are we? I thought we were with the change removing the fee for owner occupied so that it was like, hey, if you want our person to come in and do it, we will come in and do it and look for you. It's elective. So for the mandatory, there would still be a fee for non-owner occupied.
So the bill that was presented last month.
Yeah.
Was non-owner occupied inspections only, whereas the current code is all
Yeah,
dwellings.
got that.
In the direction I understood, and if I misunderstood it, I apologize, but the direction I understood was to have an alternative bill that just removed the fee for the inspections for what the city is doing. Now, if the desire is to maintain the same level of inspections that are currently going on, not charge for it, that would have to require an amendment to the new business bill.
Yeah, I think I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was thinking last time is that non-owner occupied would stay as they are now. Have to do it and you have to pay for it.
Correct.
The new side, the purpose of removing the fee, even though we're still removing the requirement, was that if somebody wanted to, if somebody was owner occupied, you see what I mean?
And
That they could
Okay.
request it and we would go out and do it for them.
I know there was comment on that. I didn't understand that as direction, but I will say
Um,
that's, and I understand and I apologize if I misunderstood that. I will
I
say,
don't know what the rest, I know what I thought, but I don't know what the rest of everybody else.
well, I will tell you what current bills read is one, just changes the current process to be only applicable to non-owner occupied. That's the old business bill. New business bill is the same change, but also removing any fee associated with that inspection.
Was everybody else thinking that the fee would be removed for essentially rental properties, non-owner occupied?
I didn't understand it that way, but I'm also, as I research this more, talk to more and more residents, I believe that all the homes should be. And if we're gonna do that, I think we ought to charge some type of.
So based on the number of inspections done and revenue to the city past 3 years, thinking the number of inspections and the number of failures and all that, the cost to the city would be relatively low. And if you move the requirement for owner occupied, it goes down even more. So they weren't able to break out how many of those were rentals, things like that. But I think that the impact of the city would be very low. If it is the desire of the board to still charge for those that are required by ordinance, then I think we can still amend this now since it's already been posted. If we want to amend it to do that without having to postpone it to the next meeting.
Or I think you just go back, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we wanted to continue to charge for the ones that would still be required, then we would just pass bill that we.
Amended.
Can that fee be set by policy rather than ordinance?
The fee needs to be set by ordinance, but it does not have to be codified. It can be part of the budget adoption year to year. Or just adopting a list.
Does the city assume any liability with these inspections?
For mandatory inspections, generally, generally no. If we start going to an optional one, there is a risk of that.
And so I'm just trying to figure out how we achieve what Alderman Ungerbock was talking about, because I don't oppose that at all. If we did pass the other and we had people call in for an elective safety inspection, can the city elect not to charge a fee on those?
I don't want to get into too much detail, but I'm gonna advise against doing
Okay.
elective ones.
All right.
I understand why you're saying that.
So I guess we probably need to ask the temperature of the board. Is there a desire to see the fees stay or go?
I always thought we would keep them in place for rental properties because it's just a cost of doing business, right? You have to pay for your inspection, you're essentially running a business with that property.
I think the fee should, like I stated earlier, stay in place, all inspections. As I cannot find residents that are upset about $75 for the selling a home. As we listened to the realtors, they said the inspection is not a hassle. Clearly stated.
I think I misunderstood you because I thought that it was, you were the one that was suggesting to remove and drop the fee.
I did suggest that as a possibility. But then, once again, I got out and one of the reasons I come to these, concerts, I talk to these residents. Oh, there's a lot of non-residents. Find out, if I asked them, do you live here in the city? What do you think of that? Majority of people say they don't care, but I can't find any people that are upset about it. They're all like, they did.
Okay, so can I have a show of hands of who's in favor of retaining, keeping the fees?
Yeah, to the extent that we're going to keep them, those should be.
And who's in favor of removing the fees?
Yeah, I could go either way too.
It's just my opinion, if you're gonna have a inspection, either have the inspection on everybody or you take it off. Why are the
There has
rentals?
to be a cost involved in doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or mandating it and then putting a cost on it.
But it's a public safety. I mean, you can go down the book of things that, you know, are public safety. And in this, it's kind of on the fence or.
Right. I guess my thought
You know,
is what we
so-
talked about before is, if this employee in city, my job here is not sustained by this activity or partly sustained by this activity.
There are a whole lot of other things we could have Jeff doing if he wasn't going out doing these
So
inspections.
that would, what's the burden? If there is an additional burden on him, then this would kind of lend to, this is part of.
Well, not as business as usual, okay? But if we didn't have the inspections, period, okay, like for instance, when I asked Jeff, the way I understand it, the inspections of St. Williams apartments. That's kind of done once a year. That's not what every occupancy turnover.
St. William,
It's,
I just need to. This is gonna check all the alarms. That kind of stuff. Their protocol there for inspections, because they have a lot of trouble. Higher than what we would ever.
Is that allowed by ordinance to not provide those?
No.
We should probably talk about that.
I've got a copy of
Yeah.
everything that they do.
okay, Jeff, that's fine. I mean, we're,
Okay.
We are at 7
So-
o'clock.
Yeah, I could go either way, you know, at this point, so, I think retaining it for sustaining Jeff and any future employees that would work with him.
it's not to sustain his work. I mean, it's not at all. Trust me.
So
I mean-
to offset the cost of doing the job.
Well,
This is
you
that-
actually-
I don't,
so you're offsetting the cost.
it's,
Then why else have the fee? Because that's the, you know,
You also have filings, you have clerical work involved in it, there's paperwork involved.
the
all
staff.
that.
that was-
Yeah.
Sure, so it's offset the cost.
stuff, I mean, so,
Additional costs.
I'm okay with it.
okay, anything else for the work session?
I, a little note, I did just get a message from somebody saying that we're not sitting in front of our name tags.
I'm Justin.
So if we want to take like 2-minute recess between meetings,
But we'll take a few minutes.
that person is my wife, so I have to.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Second, sorry.
got a motion to adjourn, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the work session is adjourned. We'll reconvene. Give us about 10 minutes.
7 in the hand.
Hello, hello. Again, it's Zach, am I getting those? I won't be